I'm Vance Bastian, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 8, Episode 42, Entertainment Review. Baz and I will be giving our thoughts and reviews of Cassandro, Amazon Prime feature, exploring how it relates to queer life, as well as discussing its strengths and flaws. According to IMDb, Cassandro follows the true story of Cassandro the Exotico, character created by Saúl Armendáriz? Is that how you say his name?
Armendáriz. Yeah,
Armendáriz.
Armendáriz.
Gay amateur wrestler from El Paso who rose to international stardom. I love true stories, even if it's a dramatized true story. I love true stories.
Yeah, and I'm going to start off by saying, while being Mexican, I am not a big follower of that whole genre of lucha libre, but I understand it culturally. I get it. I know what it's all about. I get the theatrics of it, which is probably the closest thing that gets my attention from it. Um, and I understand that it's a whole play on good versus evil. But for a long time, the Exoticos, which was the term they gave the queer characters and caricatures that were created for Lucha Libre, were always the bad guys. They were always the ones to be put down. What makes Cassandro different is that he changed the narrative. He flipped it. He became more popular than a lot of the typical lucha libre characters. And then he didn't necessarily win every wrestling match, but when he lost, he still ended up being more popular than the ones who won. And what I loved about this film is, and Gael Garcia Bernal played Cassandro, the character Cassandro, whose real name is Saul, which we said in the description. But he also was the executive producer on it. And so kudos to him for taking this role, for actually seeing this story and saying, yeah, we're going to do this one. And he decided he wanted to play the role himself. I thought it was beautifully rendered. I thought the characters were very heartfelt on all levels. It was wonderful seeing Raul Castillo again. It
Mm-hmm.
just, man, the boy has filled out from when he was a twink on Looking. I'm like, dude, okay. Wow. Okay, boy. But it was nice seeing him again. I enjoy his performances, and I got to kind of give it to him because Castillo is a family name of mine. So whether or not we're related, it's just cool seeing the name up on the marquee. And I love the film. I loved the script. It really, really brought forward that this had very much at its core the Latino or Latinx experience. Um, I loved that I could relate to every permutation of the community as it was represented. It also brought back really hard memories for me because when I was younger, and I mean like preteen, like my late early ages going into teens, I had a real problem identifying as Mexican because I saw a lot of the poverty in it, and I saw a lot of what they did to try to make things better, but it always seemed half-assed to me, and it really made me ashamed. So I had a lot of internal problems with that. Um, and so watching it, it brought up all those memories of how, and I am acknowledging that it was wrong to feel that way. I was young. I didn't quite understand the full breadth of it. I was a Mexican American, and the American was the important part of that phrase. So I had a much more privileged position to hold that opinion, but it wasn't a truthful opinion. It was one that was misinformed and was much lying, primarily because of the environment I was living in. So that's one of the things that this film brought back for me, was those feelings, those misplaced feelings as a preteen. And I could see the error of my ways in many respects. So this had a whole different meaning for me, and I understood Cassandro. I understood Saul's position. I really identified with him. I loved that they kept it positive because there were some not so positive elements in his personal life, in real life, and they kind of skirted it. They didn't really avoid it.
Mm-mm.
but he
Just
had
it
a
wasn't the
trouble.
focus.
No, it wasn't the focus. That he did have problems with drugs and some alcoholism and stuff. So he was fighting demons while he was up and coming, and they hint at that in this film, but it's not the focus of it. So I like that it kept the positive forward momentum of where Saul went in his life, and I also love the fact that they didn't shy away from any of his homosexuality. They
Hmm.
didn't, but they didn't also beat you over the head with it. It all was very organic. It all was very real. It was very rooted in the culture. The dichotomy of being called a puto, a maricon, at the same time, they can cheer for you as well. So that duality is something that all Latinos struggle with when they know they're queer. But I really love that. And I love the relationship that he has with his trainer. I really liked that as well. And I could see the pain in her eyes when she saw him going adrift and not
Hmm.
knowing quite how to pull him back. So yeah, I really love this on so many levels. It's definitely one of my favorite films. I definitely will rewatch this film just because it makes me actually proud to be a Mexican. So it's definitely brought me full circle.
Nice. First admission, I still haven't given Prime like credit for being a full studio for some reason. So anytime I see that something's produced by Prime Studios, I always have a, oh, it's going to be B-roll. This was not. This was not B-roll at all, at all. So I need to get over that. Um, this was top-notch storytelling, and I only had one disconnect in the storytelling style, and I'll get to that in a second. But I love diving into parts of life that I have zero experience in. I mean, I grew up on a farm in North Wisconsin. What do I know about Latino culture, let alone lucha libre? So,
Although he has a really good Mexican restaurant, he has made that clear to me.
yes, my little village has a fantastic restaurant, again run by boys from Mexico. Though it's not locally owned. Well, it's owned because they live here, but
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's from the culture.
it's from the culture. Um, So, one, I enjoy diving into cultural films that just awaken me to other possibilities. I mean, this was amazing, and it's such good storytelling. And like Baz said, they don't harp on any of the bad things. They don't shy away from it. They show it, but it's not the focus. The focus of the story was not his drug use at all. Actually, I think the only real lesson in this is that celebrityness can destroy your life. Um,
Yes,
that was a
which we kind of know universally. It's a
yeah.
universally accepted truth. But and I think that's to their credit, like you said, that they
Hmm.
didn't focus on it because we kind of know it's a truth. You
Right.
know.
Right. But that was, I think, the biggest running thing through his life is at every step of his ascent, his own celebrity kind of undid a little bit. Again, it wasn't the focus, it wasn't what they were harping on, but you saw it. And you
Mm-hmm.
saw how it clashed with how he related to people, how he related to his own mother in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Sidebar. Unsidebar. Nope. Still dying. 1 minute.
That's a massive cup of coffee.
It's water. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
water. It's all,
Okay.
I don't drink coffee. Actually, I find coffee disgusting. I've never liked. I used to
Just
manage a
like him.
coffee.
I
I used
have
to
here,
manage a
he has
coffee
two
house.
huge thermoses of water that he keeps that I just have to keep adding ice to. So I get it.
Hmm. No, I never developed a taste, and I never understood why you would want to develop a taste of something you don't automatically like the taste of. Why? So anyway,
Like nicotine, it's a drug.
yes, but it's not generally smart to start in on drugs either.
Well, yeah, yeah. Anyways,
Anyway, unsidebar. So, again, the fact that this was in his life was great. My disconnect. There's a point in the story where they leap from his rise. Like he has the fight that shows that he made it. And then they leap to many, many years later when he's going on to a talk show with specifically the guy he fought in that fight. So it feels very fluid, but there's at initially no indication that you've jumped decades.
yeah, they didn't put a lower third that tells you it's
Nope.
several years later or anything. Yeah.
So I had a really hard time catching up to the story at that point because you mentally have to fill in a career. that you didn't see any indication had happened. And I knew nothing about him, so I didn't have like any prior knowledge to use as sort of, okay, insert this here. So it's my
Yeah,
one disconnect.
the only visual I think that you could pick up on if you were paying, if it was obvious to you, is that his hair was completely different,
His hair
which
was,
he
yeah.
had a very distinct style for the
Mhm.
rest of the film. And when he came out, I'm like, okay, that's definitely later because it's all filled out. It's also slightly gray, so
Yep.
there was definitely elements that it had been some time. Yeah,
Yep.
but you're right,
But
it wasn't obvious.
it was also, he was going on to a talk show, so it's also really easy to say, oh, the talk show stylist styled him up for the show. Like it was not a seamless transition, and it threw me out of the story because I suddenly had to fill in pieces of a career that I knew nothing about. Not bad. I just want to warn audiences so that you're ready for it because it's there. And how he sort of closes the film is really beautiful because it's part retrospective, part there's still hope for the future, but there's a thank you from an audience member that is so heartwarming and touching that it kind of makes what we talked about on Monday, you know, sports stars who come out while they're in their careers touch lives, and
Mhm.
they touch lives in very significant ways, and this touched on that. So, lovely film. I highly recommend it. You don't have to know anything about the culture to enjoy it. You just have to be willing to read subtitles.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a Spanglish movie.
It is, and they speak both languages, which
Yeah,
again is culturally appropriate. But
yeah.
when they're speaking Spanish, they put the subtitles down for us gringos. So I learned a word. No, I'm kidding. Numbers.
Mine are fives across the board, with the exception of screenwriting, because I think, to your point, there were a couple of times where I wasn't quite sure why certain things were included. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
seem to tie up certain things. And I know life doesn't always tie up stuff, so I
Mm-hmm.
get that.
Right.
But there were certain things that just kind of didn't play, or there were not things that kind of sorted itself out, like the old man who gave him his big break as an Exotico. You see him towards the end where he's talking to another
Another
wannabe
young fighter.
wrestler, and he's
Yeah.
like talking him up, and Saul just walks by him as if that relationship is long over, and you're kind of like, well, uh, what happened here, kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it does show the progression that he has moved on, he's reached new heights, he's beyond that. But so that's why I'm giving it a 4, because it just, there were some elements, and again, to your point about the um, TV show, talk show situation, where it wasn't as clear. And I also like the fact that they included his trainer in her storyline, but then she kind of just faded into the
Yeah.
back
She's like
very
disappeared.
quickly. And that kind of just made me go, well, wait, so there were screenplay elements that I thought could have been honed a bit better. So mine is a 4.75.
So for exactly those reasons, my script, screenplay, and directing were fours. Everything else was a five. This is beautiful. Even the grittiness to it was so perfect for
Mm-hmm. Yep.
a
The
fighting
colors,
based sport. It
the
was
color
perfect.
spectrum, yeah, it was all gorgeous.
And they completely pay attention to this. They completely changed filming styles when something he was doing was being televised
Yeah,
versus him walking around on the street.
yeah.
It's really beautifully done too. So yeah, everything else I gave fives. I actually did give this an overall five. I know I dinged the directing and script screenplay, but it's a must see anyway.
Excellent. Love it.
Hmm. All right, Written on the Edge is produced by
And
Road
oh,
Rage's
and
Vic.
to be, I am definitely going to recommend this as a reaction for me and Albert, primarily because I would like his position as a Mexican who lives in Mexico
True.
to see what his thoughts are about the way it's represented. So definitely be looking forward to that. It'll probably come sometime around Thanksgiving in November or early December. So, but I'm definitely going to throw this one up there because I really want to get Albert's position on it. So definitely
All
look
right.
forward to that. Oh,
Nice.
wait, sir.
Sure. All right, Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Tune in Friday for our interview with SM Rune, and we'll see you next week.
Bye now. Uh-oh, did I just lose you?
No, I was being a dumbass.
Okay.
Oh, what's that?
Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.